Good afternoon. My name is Marta Frizzola. I'm the Dean of the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences here at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. It is with great pride and joy that I welcome all of you to the second annual lab coat ceremony for PhD students. The ceremony serves as a symbolic induction into professional training for newly matriculated PhD students in biomedical sciences and neuroscience programs, as well as the medical scientist training program. Graduate students who have officially joined the lab and confirmed their PhD candidature by successfully defending their thesis proposal exams will also be recognized with a plaque. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Eric Nessler, Dean for Academic and Scientific Affairs, Director of the Friedman Brain Institute and Nash Family Professor in the Fishberg Department of Neuroscience. Dr. Nessler, please come forward.
Thank you, Dean Filizzola. It is an honor to welcome our graduate students and their families to the second annual lab coat ceremony at Mount Sinai. We are the only graduate school in New York City that has a lab coat ceremony and one of the very few nationally. Yet we think that this is a very important event because of the centrality of the nation's biomedical research enterprise to our health and economy, and the unique responsibility that each of our graduate students will have once they complete their training. As we noted last year, the lab coat is a symbol of the authority and professionalism of science and medicine. And even though this is the only day of the year that I actually wear a lab coat, as you could see from how poorly it fits me, I wear it figuratively every day with great pride. The most critical dimension of your graduate school career will be finding the right laboratory in which to do your doctoral dissertation research. And the most critical aspect of that choice will be the lab's principal investigator, who will be your mentor. In fact, I would argue that the lab PI is more important for your future than the content of the lab's work and the experimental approaches that your lab utilizes. If it works as it should, your lab mentor will be one of the most significant relationships of your professional lives. Your lab mentor should teach you not only how to do science, in some ways I think that's the easiest part, but also teach you how to run a lab, how to get a group of young students, postdocs, and research assistants to work productively and collaboratively, but also in a friendly, positive, and constructive tone and climate, and how to establish positive, synergistic relationships with many other laboratories here at your home institution and well beyond. According to Wikipedia, my source of all knowledge, mentorship describes, and I quote, a relationship in which a more experienced or more knowledgeable person helps to guide a less experienced or less knowledgeable person. Wikipedia goes on to describe the recipient of mentorship as the mentee or protege, and the person giving the mentorship as godfather or godmother. The word mentor comes from Homer's Odyssey, in which the character named Mentor imparted wisdom to, shared knowledge with, and helped future planning for Telemachus, who was the only son of Odysseus and Penelope. A little bit closer to home, those of you who are Seinfeld fans may remember an episode from the 1990s focused on the mentor-protege relationship that involved the chocolate sauce Bosco. Any remembrances? Well, I digress. My life was changed forever by my PhD mentor, Paul Greengard. And this is a timely subject because Paul died just this past April at the age of 93. At that time, he had a lab of 61 people at Rockefeller University. It was the largest lab at Rockefeller and the one with the most funding. And I'd like to dedicate my remarks today to him. I joined Paul's lab when I was 20 years old, still in college, and chose to stay on for my MD, PhD degrees in large part because I wanted to work in Paul's lab. I was drawn to Paul by the style of his science, and I suppose in some ways at age 20 I had good taste because Paul ended up winning a Nobel Prize 25 years later. But it was really much more than the science. I loved the way Paul managed the lab, which had about 27 people in the lab at the time I was there. Especially the multiple ways in which Paul was able to get every single person in the lab to feel good about their work and produce results commensurate with their capabilities. The large majority of people in the lab did not have science and nature papers, yet Paul found a way to ensure that everyone felt rewarded, that everyone's accomplishments were seen as significant and contributing to the lab's overall efforts. Paul was a master motivator, finding different ways to get everyone in the lab to achieve their maximal potential. He was also unusually big-hearted and empathic. When I was a student in the lab, another student was having a very difficult time personally and professionally struggling with depression. And in contrast to the reaction that many PIs at the time and since that I've seen have in this position, I was struck then by Paul's generosity and his personal efforts to find a way to help the student get better, taking the extra time the student needed to eventually complete his PhD and do the best he could. Paul was also one of the funniest people I've ever known. I still laugh out loud when I think of some of the things that Paul has said to me in his uniquely mischievous and irreverent way. And this is a good lesson for life as well. We must never forget that humor is an essential elixir for good science, and happy living. Paul's influence on my life far exceeded the few years that I was in his laboratory. Paul remained a mentor to me for life. Despite the fact that I left the Greengard Laboratory in 1983, and I dare ask our students how many were born in 1983, I relied on Paul for personal and professional advice for several decades thereafter, well into my 50s. I would schedule trips to New York City just to have dinner with Paul, to get that advice, and I left each and every visit reinfused with that distinctive sense of well-being and confidence that, frankly, only Paul was ever able to give me, to offer me over the course of my own career. And over the years, I've used what I've learned from Paul in managing my own lab as I face challenges, and a lab PI always faces challenges running a laboratory. I would often say, WWPD, what would Paul do? I hope that these personal reflections on my mentor are helpful to you as you seek out yours. Your goal should be to find the same things in your PhD mentor that I found in mine. In addition to your lab PI, your mentor might include a classroom teacher, an important collaborator, or a member of your thesis committee. My experience and similar ones of many of us on stage today have guided our efforts to make Mount Sinai's graduate program as generative, positive, and supportive as possible, to offer all of you what we gained during our PhD training. All of us here hope and believe that Mount Sinai can offer you just that. As you all embark on your graduate student careers, get yourselves into labs that enable you to reach your potential and make your lives whole and also happy. I consider myself one of the luckiest guys on earth because every day I get to pay forward my experience to run a lab, to work with young people like yourselves, and to pursue science, my life's passion. I hope that each and every one of you use your PhDs for an equally rewarding and enjoyable career. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nessler. I would also like to thank our alumni supporters who contributed to making this very special ceremony possible. Our deep appreciation also goes to the Mount Sinai Alumni Association for sponsoring the lab coats our students are about to receive. Please join me in thanking them for their incredible generosity. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Robert Krause, Professor of Cell Developmental and Regenerative Biology and Professor of Oncological Sciences. Dr. Krause will introduce our keynote speaker. Dr. Krause, please come forward.
So it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our keynote speaker, Francesca Cole. Francesca received her PhD from Mount Sinai for work she performed in my lab as a graduate student. And I could go on and on about Francesca's awesomeness, but time is short, and so I'm just going to share a single anecdote. The first paper that Francesca wrote as a PhD student in my lab involved construction of a targeted mutation in mice. This was at a time that was hard to do. And with those mice, she made an unexpected observation. The only authors on that paper are Francesca and myself, and it was published in 2003. Fast forward 16 years to the current date, and my lab is still working on the sequelae from that observation, and I have 2 NIH grants to support that work. So Francesca had an enormous impact on the direction of my lab, and that was actually the smaller part of her thesis. From Mount Sinai, Francesca did postdoctoral work at Sloan Kettering in the lab of Maria Jason, where she studied mechanisms of meiotic recombination, and again, her work was elegant and groundbreaking. She started her own lab at the MD Anderson Cancer Center in Texas thereafter, and she has just gone from strength to strength. She is a CPRIT scholar, an R. Lee Clark Fellow, and received the President's Recognition of Faculty Excellence in Research Award, all at MD Anderson. Most impressively, in 2015, she received the extremely competitive and prestigious NIH Director's New Innovator Award. Her most recent work on meiotic recombination offers a cogent explanation for the surprising observation that younger men have a higher risk for fathering children with Down syndrome. She continues to do Mount Sinai proud, and I'm delighted she agreed to join us as the keynote speaker at this year's Lab Code ceremony. Francesca.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Dean Filizzola. Welcome. Welcome to biomedical research. I am proud to call you colleagues and fellow students of the Icahn School of Medicine of Mount Sinai. This is my most important message to you. You belong here. You belong in graduate school, and I hope you're excited about this scientific adventure you are beginning. Science, especially important, groundbreaking science, is extremely difficult. In the next 5 to 6 years, you will feel overwhelmed, daunted, bored out of your gourd, frustrated, and likely question whether you made a mistake with your thesis project, your thesis advisor, your graduate program, even your favorite coffee order will be in question. When this happens, and it will, remember, you are not alone. This is perfectly normal and expected. All of your classmates will feel that way at some point. This is because a PhD thesis project is much more difficult than any of the most demanding classes you've ever taken as a student. My best friend and I met as undergraduates in our second year organic chemistry class. I was supporting myself through undergrad studies, working as a laboratory technician, and I knew very early on that I wanted to be a biomedical researcher running a research lab. In our senior year, my friend surprised me by applying and joining the physical chemistry PhD program at University of Washington. I was surprised because she had never undertaken a research project. I asked her if she was sure this was really the right decision for her. She assured me that she loved physical chemistry, that she loved the classes. After a few years, she took a master's and left the program, despite one of her experiments being successfully performed on the space shuttle. She told me, research wasn't what I expected. My favorite part of PChem was doing the really tough problems and then looking in the back of the book to see that I was right. Research didn't give me that kind of validation. And this was a clarifying moment for me. In research, we, the scientists, are writing the back of the book. We have to live with the knowledge that we could be wrong, that our approach may not work, that we may not be asking the right questions, or that our research could be fundamentally flawed because of an underlying assumption is incorrect. In short, doing research makes you feel stupid. The more you know about your research project, the more you realize how much we don't understand. You must accept this. And when you do, it's liberating rather than demoralizing. Martin Schwartz wrote a superb perspective in the Journal of Cell Science entitled The Importance of Stupidity in Scientific Research. A key premise is that it is important for PhD students to appreciate how difficult research is, that you will feel stupid at times, but you need to be productively stupid. Embrace it and realize that if you don't feel that way, you aren't working hard enough, or you're not pushing the boundaries of our knowledge enough. Of course, that doesn't mean you have to do it alone. One of the most important decisions that you will be making in the next year is to choose your research mentor and laboratory. I'm super glad that Dr. Nessler actually talked about this already. Choose your mentor wisely. A great PhD mentor is frankly more important than research topic or project. There are so many great questions in research. Please do not limit yourself to what intrigued you before you entered graduate school. Be open-minded about projects and seek out a terrific mentor. Such a mentor will be a great and enthusiastic scientist. They will ask important questions about biology and make advances that are both mechanistic and conceptual. How will you know this? Read, read, and read some more. I cannot stress enough how easy it is to distinguish yourself as an exceptional scientist simply by being well-read. But also, a great mentor revels in mentoring trainees and finds the mentoring process itself tremendously rewarding. This kind of mentor will guide and advise you while nurturing your path to independence. Your task with the help of your mentor in the next 5 to 6 years is to learn how to identify critical research questions and design means to answer them. Once you have data, you will need to learn to interpret it, but also how to communicate those interpretations and your findings to the general community and to other fellow scientists. A great mentor will support you by sending you to scientific conferences and courses and introducing you to fellow scientists and your work to fellow scientists. Take advantage of your rotations to speak candidly with current and former lab members and students and postdocs in the neighboring labs. They will be honest about the experience and the laboratory environment. Are the trainees generally happy in the lab? Are lab meetings a group discussion? Do the trainees get support in preparing seminars and poster presentations? Is there a team spirit in the lab, or is it too competitive? Listen to them. Do not assume that you are a magical unicorn that will have a different experience from everyone else. Then, and this is really key, the key component to a successful mentor-mentee match is self-analysis. What is the best research and training environment for you? What are your shortcomings and the best ways to mitigate them? Do you need frequent meetings to keep you on task, or do you resent them? Also, remember, life happens when you're in graduate school, and you need a strong advocate both for when things are going poorly, personally and professionally, and when you're thriving. Seek that special person, and they will set you up for life as a research scientist. I am very fortunate in my choice of Rob Krause as my PhD mentor. He is a rigorous and brilliant scientist who also has a happy family life. Such traits are highly worth emulating. But I was also reminded very recently of how gracious Rob was in my last year of my PhD when I was a pretty cranky and frankly a bit arrogant graduate student. And there was a bit of karma when my first graduate student was walking down the, and accepted her thesis this last spring. Besides your mentor and lab mates, you also have each other. Friends you make in graduate school can be supporters and inspirations for you and your work for life, even if you end up following different paths and subjects. I just spent the weekend in Munich, actually Labor Day weekend in Munich, with two of my beloved graduate colleagues from Mount Sinai, and I count them among my most treasured advisors. One is in the top administration of the Max Planck Institute, and the other is an editor of a major journal. The different perspectives of our career choices, coupled with our common research experience at Mount Sinai, is a rich source of self-reflection and empowerment. We often discuss difficult career, work, and mentoring issues in depth, and we'll even role play with each other, difficult conversations that we might be having with mentees or when asking for money or support for our research projects. I encourage you to get to know all of your classmates, but even more importantly, to support each other. What do I mean? Emily Bernhardt wrote a terrific perspective for Nature in 2017 that centers on an anonymous quote given as advice to newly entering graduate biology students. Everyone here is smart. Distinguish yourself by being kind. You are a diverse and powerful group of scientists. The school cares about your views, particularly collectively. You have an opportunity to develop a supportive group gestalt that embraces your diversity and empowers you all. The eminent evolutionary biologist Stephen Jay Gould said, "We pass through this world but once. Few tragedies can be more extensive than the stunting of life. Few injustices deeper than the denial of an opportunity to strive, to even hope, by a limit imposed from without, but falsely identified as lying within." You have the opportunity to create an inclusive graduate experience for all of you. Inclusion is necessary to support a diverse population of scientists and is the key to creating an environment that supports the highest level of innovation. Biomedicine needs all the brilliant minds. Do not perpetuate the status quo that is preventing underrepresented individuals from striving and succeeding. How to go about doing that is you are just, first-year graduate students. Listen to each other. Support each other's work and research rigorously, but kindly. Allow time for the quieter and more introspective students to voice themselves in group discussions. Invite and encourage the invitation of diverse speakers. Don't tolerate condescension from faculty or from each other. A simple wow and pause after someone says something intolerant or condescending can be a powerful way to acknowledge negative comments and adjust bad behavior. Finally, please try not to continuously compare yourself to everyone else. Research is a long journey, and prizes and awards are not enough to sustain you. This builds resentment and fosters imposter syndrome, which is the feeling that you don't belong. And as I stated in the beginning, it is abundantly clear that you all belong here. So, welcome to biomedical research, and let's make beautiful science together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cole. The next part of this ceremony, the part many of you have been anxiously awaiting, will be the presentation of 2019 matriculating PhD and MD PhD students with lab coats as a symbolic induction into rigorous scientific training. The students will receive their lab coats from distinguished members of the graduate school faculty who exemplify outstanding graduate teaching and mentoring. It is my pleasure to introduce the 8 program directors who will be coaching the 2019 matriculating PhD and MD PhD classes. Please come forward as I call your name. Dr. Margaret Barron, Senior Associate Dean for MD PhD Education, Director of the MSTP program and Professor in the Department of Medicine. Dr. Robert Krause, Co-Director of the Development, the Regeneration and Stem Cell Training Area and Professor in the Department of Cell Developmental and Regenerative Biology. Dr. Jeremiah Faith, Co-Director of the Immunology Training Area and Assistant Professor in the Department of Genetics and Genomic Sciences. Dr. Eli Stahl, Co-Director of the Genetics and Data Sciences Training Area and Assistant Professor in the Department of Genetics and Genomic Sciences. Dr. Doris Germain, Co-Director of the Cancer Biology Training Area and Professor in the Department of Medicine. Dr. Jean Lim, Co-Director of the Microbiology Training Area and Associate Professor in the Department of Microbiology. Dr. George Huntley, Director of the PhD program in Neuroscience and Professor in the Department of Neuroscience. And Dr. Eric Sobey, Co-Director of the Pharmacology and Therapeutics Discovery Training Area and Professor in the Department of Pharmacological Sciences. It is also my pleasure to introduce this year's roster's leader, Dr. Matthew O'Connell, Senior Associate Dean for Curriculum, Recruitment and Admissions in the Graduate School and Professor of Oncological Sciences. Matthew, please come forward.
Okay. Well, welcome to the 2019 matriculating PhD and MD PhD classes. It's really an honor to be part of this special ceremony today. I kindly ask the audience to hold your applause until after each of 8 students come out onto the stage and are quoted. I will be reading each student's preferred name, which may differ slightly from that in the program. And so let's get going. It is now my pleasure to call up the 2019 matriculating PhD and MD PhD classes. First group, okay. Sarah Banker, Priya Bengani, Daniel Charitonowitz, Yiyang Chen, That's unexpected because on mine it says Alice Chen Liao, but I guess that's her serial number or something. Okay. Sally Claridge, Sinead Culliner, and Anya Duffy. It's rather tight quarters here. Okay. All right. Michael Espino, Brianna Ferrantino, Dania Figueroa, Ian Forrest, Camille Goldman, Griffin Haas, Rolly Hampton, and Brittany Hammer. Okay. are Christina Higgins, Alicia Ho, MD Kabir, Thomas Kira, Michelle Kim, Rachel Lemontowski, Clifford Liu, and Gabrielle Lovitz. You made it. Okay. All right. Yijan Ma, Christine Magana, Don Nguyen, Maya Pahima, Forambin Patel, Rushil Patel, Richard Quintana Feliciano, and Jamie Redis. Congratulations. Okay. Haley Rhodes, Felix Rosman, Miriam Safin, Sophia Salazar, Megan Swartz, Randall Serafini, Joan Song, and Bhavna Sawali. Okay. Yay. List. Okay. Lauren Staubel, Emily Teichman, Dennis Torre, Kayla Townsley, Natalie Vananov, Ethan Veet, and Julia Velez. Okay, we're on the homeward stretch here. Okay. Jury Veloz, Sanan Venkatesh, James Vicari, Audrey Warren, Madison Weber, and Zach Zeisler. We'll just wait till they have their pick, and then we'll have a group stand up and applause. Yeah, yeah. I'm just going to wait till they finish their picks. Well done, Zach. Had to wait a long time. So, my heartiest congratulations to the 2019 matriculating PhD and MD PhD classes. Please stand, turn, and take the applause of the audience. Congratulations.
It is now the time to call on stage the graduate students who have officially joined the lab and confirmed their PhD candidature by successfully defending their thesis proposal exams by August 2019. The students will be recognized with a plaque and will walk on stage with their PIs or their training area director in case the PI is not in attendance today. Dr. Margaret Barron will read the names of the MD PhD candidates, while Dr. Basil Hans, Senior Associate Dean for Student Affairs and Career Development and Associate Dean for Graduate School Wellbeing and Resilience, will read the names of the PhD candidates. Dr. Barron.
Thank you, Dr. Filizzola. I will now ask the faculty, Okay, I guess I'm going to be calling up the students first. Varun Arvind and Dr. Alice Wang. Philip Cohen and Dr. Brad Rosenberg. Youngjun Fred Kwan and Dr. Anthony Costa. Louise Mal and Dr. Dushan Bogunovich. And I will now ask the faculty to present the plaque to their student. Next, Matthew Spindler and Dr. Jeremiah Faith. Christian Stevens and Dr. Ben-Hur Lee. And Camille Van Nest and Dr. Kevin Costa. Okay, and I will now ask the faculty to present the plaque to their student. It is now my pleasure to call on stage Dr. Basil Hans.
Thank you, Margaret. I'd also like to add my welcome and congratulations to everyone. I will call PhD students and their dissertation mentors up to the stage in groups of 4 students. As I'd ask the audience to please hold your applause, as everyone else has, until the entire group is called up. Will the confirmed PhD candidates please come up with your mentor or multidisciplinary training area directors as I call your name? So first, Josh Icahn and his mentor, Jean Lim. Erica Dalla and her mentor, Julio Aguirre-Giso. Arpit Dave and his mentor, Robert Sebra. Emma DeGrace and her mentor, Brad Rosenberg. And please, you can now present the plaques, please. Next, we have Susie Feng and her mentor, Tristan Schumann. Margaret Hung and her mentor, Robert Krause. That's the group. You guys can come on this way. Next, we have Catherine Meckel and her mentor, Drew Kearley. Gloria Novikova and her MTA director, Eric Sobey. Christopher Panabianco and his mentor, James Iatrides. Jessica Pintado and her MTA director, Jean Lim. Next, we have Rohana Ramalingam and her mentor, Matthew O'Connell. Joseph Simon and his mentor, Aaron Rich. Maria Supran and her mentors, Hugh Sampson and Maitai Suarez Farinas. Our last group, Lauren Vettere and her mentor, Tristan Schumann. Robert Wiener and his mentor, Kevin Costa. And lastly, Venu Pothula and his mentor, Elena Escova. Great. One more round of applause for them. Thank them. Congratulations. So next, I'd like to ask all of our students, both those who were coded and those who received a plaque, to please stand, turn around to face the audience, and thank your parents, your family, and your friends, because undoubtedly they have helped you get here today. So they deserve a round of applause. Thank you, parents, family, and friends. You can sit down now. And finally, it is my pleasure to introduce Matthew Evans, Associate Professor of Microbiology, who was selected by the class to administer the student's oath, and then he will administer the faculty pledge following that.
Well, congratulations to the 2019 matriculating PhD and MD PhD classes and the students who have officially joined a lab. I now ask them to stand and join me as we recite our PhD oath. Before I begin reading the oath, I would like to invite all PhD doctoral candidates and PhDs in the audience and seated behind me to stand as well, so we may all dedicate and rededicate our commitment to our profession. The oath is printed on the inside cover of your program booklet. So maybe we should get you a booklet. Yeah. Does everybody actually have the oath now? All right, great. So if we're ready. With my Doctor of Philosophy, I willingly pledge to uphold the highest level of integrity, professionalism, scholarship, and more. I will conduct my research and professional endeavors with honesty and objectivity. I will apply the highest standards of rigor and respect for the generation and application of knowledge, and fully acknowledge the contributions of others. I will not allow financial gain or ambition to cloud my judgment or decision-making, nor cause harm to society or subjects of research. I will embark on the furthering of knowledge through respectful interaction and collaboration with colleagues and community, without prejudice or exclusion. I will be a role model and use my skills and inspire and mentor and empower future generations, instilling them the highest principles of ethical behavior. As witnesses, I do affirm to uphold these guiding principles. You may be seated. And now I ask all the faculty members of the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai to stand and join me in the faculty pledge. The faculty pledge is also printed on page 9 of your program booklet. Please join me. As teachers and mentors for our students, we pledge to maintain the highest professional standards in all our interactions with students, patients, colleagues, and staff. We pledge our utmost effort to ensure that all components of the educational program for students will be of the highest quality. We will respect all students as individuals without regard to gender, race, national origin, religion, or sexual orientation. We will not tolerate anyone who manifests disrespect or who expresses bias towards any student. We will not tolerate any abuse or exploitation of students. In an effort to nurture, we pledge that students will have adequate time for reflection as well as personal and family obligations. In nurturing both the intellectual and professional development of our students, we will celebrate achievement of academic excellence and demonstrate the highest virtues of our profession. Thank you.
So, I would like to thank the graduate school staff for their assistance today, and again the Mount Sinai Alumni Association for their ongoing support. In particular, I would like to recognize Randy Schwartz, Associate Dean for Graduate School Administration, and her team, Ruthie Offin, Bianca Taylor, Ariana Jorkai, Colin Baldino, Carol Johnson, Sophie Miller, Ellie Schmelzer, Roland Pinson, Jose Tutu, Teresa Scarabino, and Susanne Small. Without their dedication and hard work, this ceremony would have not been possible. All present are invited to attend the reception. Please. All present are invited to attend the reception in the lobby outside the auditorium and on the lower level. Please remain seated until those on stage have exited the auditorium. I also ask the 2019 matriculating PhD and MD PhD classes to remain seated for group photos. The lab coat ceremony of the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences at Mount Sinai is now concluded. Thank you and congratulations to all.